Good evening, Reefers. We've got a very special guest tonight and a slightly confusing session for me, probably, because both of the guests are called Matt. Hi, Matt and Matt.
Good
Wait,
evening.
who are you talking to? Yeah. Should we have Big Matt and Little Matt and do rock, paper, scissors for the crown?
You can have Big Matt. You're taller than me. I'll give you that.
So I think we've just been chatting beforehand. We don't have Big Matt for the whole stream tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn things around a little bit, and we're going to launch straight into having a chat with Big Matt about everything Seneye, Aquatic Now, BiOrb, and all the other things that you've been involved in. And then we'll do the other stuff that we normally do at the end rather than at the beginning. So, Matt, it all started, or more recently, it all started when I saw you at AAC at Coral Freaks and started talking to you, and you said something about Seneye, and I said, "Oh yeah." So I'm connected with a guy from Seneye on LinkedIn for years. It's called Matt, and you went, "Yeah, that's me."
Yeah, so yeah, I'm pretty active in a lot of the local kind of networks here, and particularly a few of the engineering schools and stuff I help out doing bits and pieces with them. And it's really cool. There's some young reefers coming through as well, which has always surprised me when I talk to them, and they're kind of not just engaged in engineering, but they're like, yeah, I know your ALR product, but I just built something better. And you're like, cool, do you want a job? Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably why we were connected, is something to do with that, but it escapes me how.
Yeah, well, it originally came about. I was looking at buying a Seneye for my cichlid tank that I had at the time, and I think I'd gone onto the website to try and find a retailer, and the website was broken.
Right.
I was like, oh, I wonder if they know. And then I saw your name on the website. I found you on LinkedIn and just messaged you and said, hey, I'm not sure if you know, but the website's broken.
And I should think it got fixed pretty quickly because of that. But yeah, we've always done quite well with cichlid tanks. I mean, they're one of those fish, a bit like marine fish, where you've got very elevated pH, and particularly with cichlids, you've got high stocking, as you well know. And you know that is a recipe for large ammonia spikes. High pH, high stocking equals tons of free ammonia if something goes wrong.
Yeah. So we've already had a question in the chat, and you'll probably pick up quite quickly. There's a bit of fun involved in these as well as seriousness. But Ron is asking, are you tiny, or is that hair gel behind you massive? It looks like you've got a tube of hair gel.
Yeah, you know, it's not actually a tube of hair gel. It's weirdly a bottle of champagne in a paint tube.
Oh, okay.
Really random thing that I was given, but it was so cool I couldn't throw away the packaging. It was just really cool, so I kept it. I'm in the back room where people don't really come. I was hoping this was a way of keeping away from small children and people that might disturb us.
Yeah. So I think I saw your interview with Coral View, which I found really interesting. And as we said earlier, I suddenly realised then that you were actually involved with BiOrb. So I wonder if you could just kind of give us a little rundown of the story so far in your career.
Yeah, so I left university and I studied engineering at university, but I actually worked in fish tank design as my final project. We were allowed to choose what we wanted to do as an engineering project, and fish keeping had always been my life and my hobby. And so I applied what little engineering skill I had at the time. Bear in mind, I was doing it with Rolls-Royce. It was supposed to be something about jet engines or something cool like that. And I went completely off-piste and designed a closed system reef tank that is probably very akin to your sort of Red Sea Maxes and stuff you might see, but this is going back, 25 plus years, 26, 27 years ago. but it wasn't really a thing then. It was still very much, you went out, you brought all the bits if you could. Protein skimmers were actually a thing of rarity. You know, there was a few brands in the market, but they're mostly air-driven wooden ones. So I sort of, designed this system, Ventura-based skimmers and stuff in it, and patented a few bits of it. When I left university, moved back to Norwich, couldn't find a job, started designing aquarium bits and pieces, and then really hit upon BiOrb as a potential new product that could be developed. Started doing some market research. It was just really well received. So decided to see if we could sell some. Got an order for the first year's production, whatever volume that would be from someone. So I went for it, started a business. Started BiOrb, which grew, as everyone probably knows, to reasonable size. And then eventually ours came along and wanted to buy it. So it's theirs now.
Yeah.
But I mean, on that journey, it was really cool. I mean, we pioneered. I love the business side of it, but I really just love fish tanks and technology, and more so technology probably than what's in them. And we brought out the first LED light that had microprocessor control and daylight and moonlight, and actually was used for illumination rather than illuminating a bubble stream or something that actually had enough power to light an aquarium properly. And we did things like solid state heating. We're the first people to bring out proportional temperature control, low voltage heaters that were digitally controlled. So we did some really cool technology pieces, as well as making some nice looking aquariums. Sold over 1 million of them worldwide. So probably to this day, it's the largest selling designed aquarium in the world. So there's. It was a cool thing to do. It was an interesting project. It still is interesting. I work in a lot of places where I still bump into BiOrbs being used for all manner of things, like raising seahorse and jellyfish, and it's nice to see them still being used.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, see some praise for you here as well. Look, so the best frag plugs in the world.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, the ITC stuff, we're pretty proud of them. They've been rigorously ICP tested by so many people now, trying to prove they're not the best ones out there, but all the time they come back and say, they're so clean. We're trying to get that whole ITC little ecosystem of stuff around fragging and the bits and pieces like MRAC as well, which is our modular reef system. I know someone well known in the States has brought out a similar system in the last few weeks, but we've been selling something along those lines for quite a while now, for a few years. So we're really keen on increasing that ITC range as well.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Reef Delete and just thinking to myself, that's just such a mad device.
Yeah.
And you the more you look into it, the more and more fascinating it is. And how did that come about?
So we've got some of those going to the States actually. In tomorrow, there's a big order of them going to the States. It's one of those products where, like I say, I'm a technology guy, an engineer first and foremost, rather than a marketeer or a salesman or something. Or even a biologist or a chemist, I really just love technology. And when I see bits of emerging technologies, I think, what use case is there in the aquarium industry for that? And UVC LEDs have been on the event horizon for quite a while. But realistically, we're still another 10 years probably off being able to use them for UVC clarification of aquariums. And there's a couple of reasons for that. They don't have enough power, and they don't have enough life. They're very expensive to replace. So you get more life than you get from a tube, but the cost point on them is huge. So it didn't make sense, but it was kind of frustrating because there's this really cool bit of tech. And then one day in my own tank, I had a load of Aptasia. There was just that sort of light bulb moment that said, I wonder if, rather than going around using Kalkwasser, which was the thing I've been doing before, injecting Kalkwasser it works, kind of. It's messy, doesn't always get rid of them, usually causes a bit of peripheral damage, and if you overdo it, you get a bit of a pH bump and other associated issues. It was always the best out of the bunch of options out there. But then I started playing around with, I wonder if I could make something with a little UVC LED that could do it. And sure enough, built a few things. And it was about the right time when LED power was starting to it was on that exponential curve of getting better and better all the time. A bit like the LED lighting had when we brought out the LED lights for the BiOrbs. You know, suddenly power was doubling every couple of years. And so we started playing around with it. And then suddenly we realized that actually it did work. You needed a bit of patience, but it did work. But as the power was going up, the patience was, becoming less tried because the dosage was becoming less. And eventually we settled on we need to do it as a product. It's good. It works on most things that annoy you. Obviously, the more dense the organism and the higher its, phylum, the more structure it has, the more dose it needs. But generally, it works well in an aquarium. I've got one here tonight behind me. You have to be careful how you use it, and you shouldn't expect the results to be instantaneous. That's one of the things I think when we launched it, people got confused about. They thought they were buying Harry Potter's wand. That isn't what it is. It's for your reefer that's got a tank that's pretty much perfect. They notice a few things are going awry, and it's kind of like, if I don't get on top of them, I'm going to have a bigger problem. Like I said, it's not Harry Potter's wand. If you've got a tank full of Aptasia, you're better off starting again, or those other things. So I think when it first came out, people that were in dire straits rushed out and brought one, expecting it to change their world. But what's happened is, as time's gone on, those more serious reefers have gone out, brought one, used it for what we intended, touching up them really small little 1% issues they've got in the tank and been successful.
Yeah. And I guess you've got to use it repeatedly on the sort of bad spots, and momentum will start to happen.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of say that you should use it as part of a treatment plan. So it depends on what it is. A very small Aptasia is going to take a much smaller dose. Maybe even one dose will see it gone. Whereas a big one that has a very dense cell structure is going to take a lot more treatments. But generally, it's going to work. The way that it works means you don't see results instantaneously. But that's quite good in a way, because it doesn't pollute your tank. You can go around, you can do a lot of things at the same time without the risk of creating a kind of cataclysmic snowball of destruction. They often liken it to a bit like radiation poisoning, on anything else. If you went to Chernobyl when it was live, and you got exposed to the radioactive material there, it probably wouldn't affect you for a few weeks. But then slowly, when your cells try to replace, the DNA is interrupted, cells can't replace and repair, and that's when everything starts to go wrong. And that's what happens to these organisms in the aquarium, is they effectively, you dose them and then they're like, well, that didn't do anything. And it's really when they then go to repair their cells that they get into trouble.
Yeah. Just made me think of it's a flesh wound, the Monty Python sketch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think my American friends would agree there's an element of John Cleese about me, so it makes sense.
Excellent. So Seneye, we've probably all got reasonably familiar with Seneye, but I think we're probably only reasonably familiar with just a tiny fraction of it, because you do a lot of that side of it for like large aquaria and rivers and monitoring that side of things as well, don't you?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we do. There's where there's fish, there's the same toxic limits of life, really, and the chemicals we look at, like free ammonia, are quite unique. And it doesn't matter whether you're a fish in a fish tank or a aquaculture site or a public aquarium or even in a river, the same levels of toxins and the same type of toxins kind of cause issues. And more recently, I think everyone's become aware of the state of the nation's rivers and the sewerage issues that are out there.
Yeah.
weirdly, and it shocked me how similar they are. A sewage treatment plant is nothing more than a big aquarium filter. You're really using the same processes, just on a massively larger scale, and obviously dealing with human waste rather than fish waste. But actually, the biological makeup of them is the same, and the processes you use to try to make them safe are the same. And so when the stuff goes out into rivers, we use the same markers that we use on a Seneye to see if a filter stopped working, to find out if a sewage treatment plant isn't working or if a wastewater site isn't working.
Yeah. Interesting. So we kind of talked about this just before we came on air. You're partnered with CoralView for distribution in the US now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been for a few years. We've been really successful with them. They're a great little team. We've got they do most of the major shows, which we like. We've got an order going out to them, I think, tomorrow from the UK, and it's going to include the new PARwise Pro. They'd been wanting their stores to clear out the original one. I think they'd become confused that their thought process was we were going to discontinue the original PARwise. That's not the case. There's kind of two products that are sold side by side. There's PARwise, which is a traditional PAR meter replacement that does more, and then there's PARwise Pro, which brings a whole raft of new features to what we can do to understand light and especially reef keeping, for reef keeping specifically.
Yeah.
So all them American fans that want it can soon have it.
Yeah, and it's a good time to do it, actually, with and anyone who's got a PARwise Pro, if they plug it in today, they will see they've got a raft of new features. If you plug it in, it'll update itself after a few minutes, and there's some really nice new little bits on there that you can play with. We've plotted a lot of the proteins that are in corals now, so you can actually directly have a look at that. There you go.
I'm just going to try and connect mine. I don't know if I've just pulled on the lead a minute ago.
Okay.
So talk us through some of the features, Matt. What it can now do.
Yeah, so there's a few little things that users came back and said, there's some labeling stuff and some icons that were like, I don't know what mode I'm in. So we've added quite a few of those in. If we're looking at that screen there, you're on the CPER screen, I think.
Yeah.
My eyes. Yeah. And you've got two new boxes on there, as well as an averaging one. And the averaging one is the second box along. You haven't got much light there, so it's not showing much at the moment. But the averaging box will allow you to see what's happened over a 30-second cycle.
Okay.
So there you go. So we're getting some decent lighting now. And you can see there's a little black wiggly line on the averaging box, and that's kind of showing us as well how that averaging line has changed since, So you can kind of see the bit where you probably put it over the edge of the tank and it caught a bit more light and got into the tank, and how that compared to your desk. And that's what that 30-second running average is doing. And it's telling you what the average PAR was for that. So now you can see it's coming up to where the lights are. And then the next two boxes along, you've got one which is telling you how well you fit within the CPAR line, and we can talk about that in a minute. And then also the next box along tells you how much wasted energy you've got. Okay.
Yeah.
And the wasted energy is actually separate to the efficiency. They're two different calculations, which is why they don't always add up to 100%. Wasted energy is energy that falls above the line or outside the line.
So that'd be that little bit there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're incredibly dialed in on that. In terms of wastage, the point is you're not burning electricity in areas that coral can't use. So yeah, you've got a really good fit to the line at that point. You'd say that's pretty good. And then the other part that shows the fit really is how well do you fit within the underneath of that curved line. You are a bit low on there, but that can be specific to what coral you're keeping as well. So obviously different corals do have different lighting requirements, and that's not just in terms of intensity. It's not just in terms of coral type as well. it can come down to the mixture of what we call clades, which is the zooxanthic kind of protein mix that's in them. So ones that fluoresce red-green, for instance, versus ones that fluoresce blue can have different spectral requirements. And that big line in the background doesn't mean your corals, your aquapora, aren't going to be successful or something at all. But it does mean that other things might not be. So that line there, that green background,
this one here.
Yeah. So if you had a mixed tank of all different kinds of corals, soft corals, I nearly said NPS. Let's not go there. That would have been any kind of coral you've got in there, apart from NPS, will have an absorption that sits under that line. And some will require the peaks in different places to others. So if you didn't know what you were doing at all, and you just wanted to be more successful at lighting your aquarium, and you didn't really understand what corals you had and what the requirements were, and you matched that green light behind, you'd be really safe. It'd be a really safe bet, because whatever that coral was, you would know you would have light that it could use for food.
And I guess the more extreme you go and the more high level lighting you go, the more you can tweak balance to try and match that line as best as possible. Yeah,
and what you'll find is, strangely, that a lot of the kind of the lower end of the hobby lights now that are coming through are actually more matched to it anyway as a kind of preset. There's a lot of evidence about coral and how they work coming through, papers about how, red light's important. Now, some corals create that red light, which is why they glow red even under blue lights. Some don't. But what can happen with that lack of red light is you can get what's called photon bottlenecks. So it doesn't matter how much blue light you give them, if you're not giving them a small amount of red as a ratio to it, the blue light's all wasted anyway. So you get these photonic bottlenecks that can happen inside coral species if you're not careful. So some of the stuff is kind of like a safety net, the CPER line to start with. If you really want to just know that all coral are going to be safe in an aquarium under a light and get fed, then that's the line you should probably aim for. And it kind of explains as well why some people probably go home with a coral and everything else in their tank's done really well, and they go, do you know what, I can just never keep that, whatever it is, alive. And there's probably a lighting issue around there, as well as maybe a flow issue or other factors in it, but the lighting issue might be one of the prevalent issues why some people can't keep a goniopora or something.
What else have we got that's new
in the averaging stuff? I think there's I'm struggling to see your screen, but there's let me open up one on my screen, and then I can have a look from my side.
So I think let me have a look. So I've started my ramp down now.
Okay.
So you're not a big lighting either, are you? So at the moment you're still showing a lot of colour. But not obviously at its peak, because obviously you are ramping.
And you can see there the intensities of each colour that I've got set.
So you're moving into a moonlight phase, which is why it's going into its blue phase, which is fine. And that's one of the things why the product's got the DLI in there as well. So that's a really important part. Now it's been running for a few seconds, you'll have a bit of data logged on there. And that DLI is effectively looking at that stuff. So it's looking at the actual total amount of photons that you're giving to the coral over the day. And that DLI thing is in both the PARwise and the PARwise Pro. It's just something everyone should have. When I look at aquarium lighting, there's the holy trinity for me of what people should always understand is PAR, or intensity. PAR on its own, though, can be very misleading. And the analogy I often use, and you've probably heard me use it on other podcasts, is an adult male needs 2,500 calories a day. So why don't we just have 10 spoonfuls of sugar before we leave for work? That would give us all the calories we need for a day. The fact is, it just doesn't work like that. We need to understand the calories. That's your kind of DLI PAR. Well, your PAR is your intensity, really peak intensity. or what photon level you're getting at that point in the day. The other thing you need to understand is spectrum. Spectrum is a bit like, rather than just eating sugar, we should look at what our food groups are and make sure we've got varied food groups. Because if you haven't got that variation of food groups, you're probably not going to be healthy as well. If you ate just one type of food, whether it's carbohydrate or protein or vegetable. So again, it's a bit like we need that spectral stuff to understand, are we getting the right spectral mix? And then, the third part of it is the daily integration of that light. So intensity throughout the day, what spectrum is it? Because PAR on its own doesn't tell you whether it's actually feeding anything. You could have a lot of intensity in the green or the red, but that's not necessarily going to help your coral grow. So you need to twin that with some intensity and spectrum, with how that looks over the day, how you do it over the day. We don't eat all of our food in one meal, and coral don't really want to do that either. And different people can employ different strategies and still have similar results. You could have a 12-hour lighting strategy and have the same DLI as having an 8-hour strategy and the same kind of photon count at the end of it, just by having more intensity in the 8 hours. And there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to do it, but understanding what that total photon count is useful. So moving on from there a little bit, it's kind of like that's where CPER came from. The problem is the standard PARwise product is great, but it didn't really help some people, because having to understand all of those three things together can get a bit confusing. So by making the CPER line, we've kind of taken that understanding of spectrum and intensity and rolled them into one measurement. So it's kind of doing that part of it for you.
What I liked about it was you could see what usable light. I could have 200 PAR at the bottom, but actually what is usable that actually can be used from the corals. That was what was like blowing my mind. I was like, I thought 200 PAR was good, but then when you go to CPER, it's actually showing you the usable rather than just a PAR figure.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that people, PAR was a good measurement. I mean, if you roll back through the history books of reef keeping, before we had PAR meters, we had lux meters, and we used to stick them in plastic bags and put them underwater. Lux is an even worse measurement than PAR, and PAR is not perfect because it's a better measurement than lux and a better technique than lux, but in itself, it's very limited because it counts all photons between 400 and 700 nanometers. And coral actually do use some wavelengths outside of that band, and PAR ignores them. But PAR also does include wavelengths of light that we don't want to use, and that's the problem.
Makes a lot of sense.
What else? I think was pigments something new?
It's something we brought in today, actually. Pigments is quite cool because this is kind of like what's inside different kinds of coral. And we're getting super techie now. This is the kind of stuff that we're really aiming at scientists, or, if you have got those really unique corals you want to understand a little bit more, these lines can help you understand where your light matches. That's the black line compared to different pigments that are in there. So arguably you can see where you're missing bits maybe for different corals, or where you're actually spot on.
Is this where you use it more of a diagnostic tool? So if your color, one of your acros hasn't got the color you're looking for, you can see what light it's got and what pigments it's got.
Yeah, so yes, if you understood, what that organism's pigments are, then you can do that. There's a lot of stuff being built at the moment, and we're kind of a bit of ahead of the curve on this, but there's a lot of work being done in eDNA in the US to do with mapping coral genomes and their and what clades and zooxanthellae they have in them. And that will then spill into this work here. So you'll actually be able to go, this coral has these pigments in it, and therefore, if I really wanted to be successful with this, I want to match to these. I think where we got to with why we brought CPER in is, if you look at all of those pigments overlapping each other, that is kind of your CPER line. And that's where it comes from. And that's why it's kind of your safety line, if you like, for keeping all coral species alive. Because that zooxanthic absorption curve is covered by that line, that CPER line.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to talk about coral color and why they might look very different, that's really where the color analyzer comes from. I think it's the tab above.
Yeah.
And that's again
the one above that.
Yeah, I think you might
That
need
one?
to refresh the screen on that one.
This one here.
Yeah, just give it a refresh. I'm not quite sure it's not why it's not showing on there, but yeah, that's where you would get so the CCTV where it says it's not valid is because you're so blue, you're not getting a Kelvin.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something we quite often get asked about. But you would normally get rendered in those boxes a set of color standards, and then you would get a comparison. I'm not quite sure why it isn't showing on your screen there, but you would get a set of based on your light, it will tell you how your corals will look in the tank. And that's where a lot of people take a coral home from a store and they go, oh, it didn't look like it did in the photo. Yeah, so that's it there. Sorry, that's the color, what we call the color comparison scale. So you've got two sets of colors next to each other in each block. And each of those blocks tells you what the color is going to look like that you're seeing compared to what it should look like. So when we adjust our lighting, we can wash the colors out. And we sometimes do that deliberately because when people talk about a coral pop, that's effectively what you're doing. You're knocking some colors out that might make it look brown, and you're adding in the colors that will introduce more fluorescence or more peak color response from those. But it's just useful for people doing photography of coral. It's useful for people understanding why maybe the same coral looks different in different tanks under different lights. And it's just a cool tool that we quite like to understand why things don't always look the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Anything else to show here?
So there's just loads of major tweaks that have gone up. I think the pigments and the CPER stuff with the averaging and the PAR's gone averaging box now. There's just a ton of little tweaks and updates, and that's really based from user feedback. We've got a couple of user groups with quite interesting people. I think some of you guys are in one of them, and we get constantly little questions about, oh, can you do this? Can you add that in? Where we can take that on board and they're reasonably easy to do, we add them in to make it more usable.
Excellent. I'm just setting my lights back. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Middle of the day then, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it's an example of, how, just seeing that, how different you can make the corals change color and pop and Yeah. And there's this, there's always this issue between how we want our tanks to look and what's good for the organisms in them.
Yeah. So what else? When I was having a look at what's, and I think this is more about what Aquatic Now are involved with, saw Real Reef Rock.
Yeah, so Real Reef Rock has been one of our major brands we've supported for a long time. We're actually just been working with them behind the scenes for about 18 months on a what we call Real Reef 2.0. It's kind of a not a relaunch. I don't want to say a relaunch. It's a repositioning of the products in terms of making them more interesting from a point of sale and marketing point of view.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't get me started with Rock.
Matt had a lot of issues with Rock.
Yeah.
So Rock is a real enigma because you've got dry rock, and that I think actually, apart from live rock, obviously, the only other one is Real Reef Rock, which is actually a washed and matured product, and everything else out there is actually just a dry rock. And my personal preference has always been Real Reef Rock. That's why we ended up distributing it, because I want to be able to get my tank running quickly. I don't want to be doing that thing you have to do where you, back in the day, we used to buy tougher rock. You guys probably don't even remember that. And you spend the first 4 to 6 weeks of your reef keeping experience just trying to keep the glass clean enough so you could see the rock. And these products nowadays, I mean, we can really get going really quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that sounds a lot like the process that Matt went through with your rock.
My rock was just unbelievable. I won't mention any names, but yeah, algae. I had a massive algae outbreak. Killed it off, and then I'm still fighting with it to this day. And I think it's probably some of it's my fault, but some of it I've heard same stories that it takes a while to start to mature and start to get into that cycle.
Yeah, I mean, there is always this nutrient sort of bloom when you get new tanks, but obviously the quality of the rock you use, and the construction of the rock, if it's not made with the right materials, it can leach all kinds of stuff into the water. We have done quite a lot of ICP testing in the past with taking rocks and just put them in RO water, leaving them for a few weeks, and then ICPing them, and it is quite amazing what comes out of it. So yeah, we like Real Reef Rock. It's a really clean, good product because it goes through this maturation process. And like I say, it's still unique in that it is the only one that's been through this maturation product. We say it's the only wet rock that's available commercially that's not live rock. And that is the truth of it.
Yeah. So it's a good go between live rock, which is very, very expensive to buy, and your standard dry rock.
Yeah, I mean, live rock is incredible and it's beautiful. And, if I could get really good, live rock encrusted with life and just put it in a tank and watch that, I could quite happily do that and see what comes out of it. Generally, it's a bobbit worm. but yeah, but I think there's environmental pressures to not be doing that stuff now. We're kind of under a lot of pressure to behave more environmentally friendly, and I get it. Live rock is a big part of that. Moving away from that has been a big part of the ecological side of better reef keeping, and I think also as well from a control point of view. I mean, ultimately, you could be introducing a lot of things into your tank that aren't beneficial, just as equally as you are introducing a lot of things that are beneficial. And it's that unknown that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started my first marine tank, and I haven't been doing marine for a huge amount of time, so this was probably just a little under 2 years ago, I bought a Fluval Evo tank, and at my local fish store, they had like a big, like an IBC with an open top, and it was just full of rock that they were using in their system, and you could buy chunks of that rock. And I bought a couple of pieces of that rock. I nearly fell to the floor when I'd heard the price of it. So it's the first time I'd bought any rock at all. And I got that home, and I was looking in my tank that night. There's something in that one. And out comes a gorilla crab.
Yeah.
And so you can get even with that, because that wasn't live rock. That was just dry rock that they'd been keeping in a sump, basically.
Yeah. I mean, and then bristle worms, things like that is, it can be, and it's like all these things, in the right environment, they can be controlled, but they can also quite quickly get to plague proportions. We go to all the trouble to dip our corals, to do all this stuff, but if you're going to put live rock in, you're kind of going to be, you don't want to be dipping that because it defeats the whole object of.
So looking ahead, what kind of trends do you see coming? Is there anything you can tell us that's coming in your future? Whatever business that's in?
I'm probably not the right guy to ask about the cool stuff and the trends. I'm the sort of dusty old engineer and inventor that's in his shed doing stuff and not got his finger on the pulse like you boys. I mean, I obviously go to the same things as you, and I think one of the things that are I hear rumors, of people going back to simpler systems, away from the kind of waterless, water changeless systems. There's some big brands out there that have pioneered and done a really good job with it. But yeah, I think people are looking at more simplistic reef keeping. And I think there's also, we've made huge scientific advances with things like ICP. And we can really understand a lot of things in our aquariums better than we ever could. But also as well, there's a huge amount of things we still don't understand. We don't understand a lot of the other things that accumulate in our aquariums, chemically, more sophisticated compounds, pharmaceuticals, or it's a bit of a similar issue to the rivers, really, that polymers can accumulate. There's a whole plethora of things, including hormones, that can bioaccumulate in a system over time, and water changes are actually quite a reliable way of diluting them out. And we're not testing
David Saxby. Not if you're David Saxby, because he'd disagree with you.
Yeah. Well, he would disagree with me about everything, I think, but that's just the relationship we have. But
yeah.
In terms of controllers, being an engineer, reef keeper, tech guy, do you believe that controllers are a benefit, can lead to mistakes, or do you think people should just use them for trends?
It's a good question. I mean, I've always separated in my own mind out the difference between monitoring and control. And I've always been quite adamant that we don't want to get into control. We want to be a monitoring company and allow people to make informed decisions about what they do in their aquariums. The reason for that is that control is great and it can work really, really well, but you only need one small change in a digital system for it to go wrong. And it can then be quite cataclysmic in terms of what can happen. The technology will continue to get better, and in my view, one of the things that has to involve is, all of the different subsystems in a control network should have their own watchdogs, and they should have their own AI that's actually dictating what looks normal and not. Because you should never be able to have one piece of equipment suddenly tell another piece of equipment to go in hard 100x on on an additive or something. Because if it's going to do that, it's probably wrong.
Yes. Yeah. There needs to, if someone says to you, just pour X amount in there, you'd go, are you sure? Because that seems like a lot. And you just have that extra check that I think with some of these automations, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the problem, is when they do go rogue, and it's always in the middle of the night or when you're away on holiday. Yes, they do absolutely have their place. But when I look at aquaculture control systems, you're looking at tens of thousands of pounds of, and the redundancy they have compared to what we have is what makes them being able to do control. They don't rely on a single sensor. They don't rely on a single pump. They have, everything is designed to have contingency and double checking.
Yeah.
I think it's good to just trend watch rather than rely.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately one of the things that I get it, because I'm a tech guy and I'm an engineer and I love all that inventing and technology stuff. My house is pretty much all controlled through, IoT. But there is something nice about having something that's a bit more analog as well, that you have to actually physically touch and do things on. And I'm still very keen that all my motorbikes are analog. They've got carburetors and things with you turn with screwdrivers. And that's, for me, that's the hobby. I'm sure I could go and buy a beautiful, say, BMW motorbike or something tomorrow, which is very much electronic fuel injection and turnkey and connected to my phone, but that's not really why I do it. And I kind of look at aquarium keeping a bit like that part of the process is the hands-on, the interaction, the understanding you gather from that process.
Yeah. So I think we're coming to the end of my questions. I've got one question left.
Go on.
Looking at everything you've achieved, I'd say you're a pretty accomplished entrepreneur. If there's any other entrepreneurs out there or budding entrepreneurs, what kind of piece of advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a real tough one. A quick joke. Someone once said to me that the best way to leave this hobby as a millionaire is to wait till that's all you've got left in your bank account. That would probably be the first one. No, I mean, all joking to one side, I kind of, and I don't know if I have succeeded or not. I mean, I've created some cool products that I'm proud of, through BiOrb and ITC and Seneye. But ultimately, it's been born out of passion. I've kind of been lucky enough to pick something that I'm reasonably good at and I thoroughly enjoy doing. And that over time is enough to have made me have some success. There's been a lot of failures along the way as well. It's not like it's it's the pendulum swings both ways.
Yeah. You've got I say we've had a few comments from Ron tonight, saying how much he's admired you and your products. We've got AAC as well, saying how you've you've always looked out for them as well. And so I've looked at the products over the years and always been quite interested with what you've been up to.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird for me as well because I've always kind of felt like I'm part of the hobby, but behind the scenes. I've been the chairman of the Ornamental Aquatic Trade Association for a long time, helping to kind of keep the wheels greased and keep us all in a hobby, and really enjoyed all of that side of it as well. But it's not the kind of public facing thing either. It's been I am committed to the hobby. It's just I'm kind of more of behind the scenes than this is unusual for me. It's an uncharted ground, these kind of chats.
So there's a comment from Ron. I can remember talking to Ron about this previously as well. He really struggles to get grow out plates for coral.
Okay.
So he's saying he liked your frag plugs, but he's saying can you make them into grow out plates? So maybe a future product for you there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's like with what we've done with the PARwise Pro. The ideas for how the products evolve come from the users. Answers on a postcard. Give us your best.
Well, I think he's currently getting them from the US, if I recall correctly. He's getting them sent over. Paul at AAC saying that he would like some too. So got two customers straight away.
There's going to be massive demand in terms of shops and hobbyists that want to grow out stuff because, like you say, if you can't buy them, then you're having to import.
And that's the thing is, ITC is a UK-based company. I mean, for you guys, we're literally down the road from each other. We have an engineering department, we have a production department. We're not, just a importer and a rebrander. We actually can create products and we can do it pretty well and pretty quickly. I think we can do it pretty well. So, if anyone has those burning desires for products, and we might be able to make them come true for you. So
well, Ron said it will only take 25% of the takings.
Okay. 25.
Is there anything you wanted to ask, Matt?
So they sort of talked about, Ron asked slightly earlier. So in 2025, is there anything happening, big news coming up for Aquatic Now? Obviously, I know Aquatic Now's various brands, but are some of your brands, is things coming soon?
Yes, I really think, in the next few weeks, we'll be releasing all the information about what's happening with Real Reef Rock. That's going to be quite big, I think, just because, it's got so many good facets to it above and beyond what else is in the market. It is the market leader. That's going to be exciting to launch this new range in there. I do think that, there's new products coming through all the time. We've had some new products from people like Abiz that will now be being marketed a bit harder in the UK. They're not designed probably at the smaller level of the hobby, the Red Sea Reefer styles, but people like AAC are already investing in them. Some of the smaller flow cannons do have a place in those sort of frag systems in stores. There is going to be a trickle of new products. There's going to be a lot of updates to existing products. I think if you're not watching the Aquatic Now Facebook page, then it's probably worth getting on there. We'll make sure we put some more.
I don't know if he's in. I don't know if he's in at the moment. Rob, he's just bought a cannon, and I think he's in love with it. I think he wants to marry it. He's so happy.
He asked me to 3D print him a mount for it as well.
Wow. Okay.
So this is the prototype at the moment. To hold the cannon in the corner of his tank.
Sweet. That's what we need is a collab, I think, of people that can do stuff like this for each other. Definitely. I mean, a bit like the Real Reefing, a bit like everything else we're trying to do as a company, we're trying to have sustainability at the core. Everything we do, everything we hope we're doing is reducing the environmental impact of what we do as fish keepers. The Abiz pumps are a good example of that. They use so much less energy to move so much more water that we're helping to reduce CO2 footprints, and the reliability issue as well. A lot of the public aquarium stuff, they're not chucking pumps away after 3 years. They're using them for 10, 20 years. They're all repairable. And we've also got, there's some really nice products like Easy Reefs as well. We've always been very keen on their range of foods, and if your local store doesn't have them, you should ask them to get some samples. We're quite happy for people to have samples to try. Things like mastic are pretty much unsurpassed if you've got finicky feeders. And again, it's that whole efficacy of keeping things alive. Taking them from the wild is fine if you've got every intention of giving them a good life and keeping them alive. And I think some of the bits like the foods we do are, instrumental in doing that.
Yeah, I've used mastic stuff myself. I just need to tell myself go easy on it because it can be a little bit phosphate heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be too bad.
It's the mistake I made. I think I was dosing it with a sort of an antibiotic. And I think,
so it should be pretty low compared for the same amount of protein level to a normal fish food, because obviously it's made from invertebrate, not from fish meal. When food is made from fish meal, it contains most of the bones, which is obviously very high in phosphorus. So generally it's a better bet, but obviously the more food you put in, the more nutrients you get, full stop.
Yeah, and it's like Ron's just said, like for copper bands and sort of any finicky feeder, like long-nosed butterflies, things like that, it's going to only help success for them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I've been into stores before where they've had a fish come in and they've not seen it eat. They don't want to sell it on to anyone because they haven't seen it eating, and it's sort of sitting there looking pretty sorry in the tank, very pinched, and and we've put mastic in there and it's gone straight in. That's it's times like that I actually really like being out on the road and visiting stores, is seeing those little things, those little moments like that, and feeling like you've actually done something good.
Yeah. Harry, the spiritual reefer, is saying, do you think there'll ever be a successful robotic glass cleaner?
Oh, that's a really good question, because was it Robo Snail, the one that came out many years ago, that was a big clunky grey thing that sat in the corner? The simple answer is yes, I think probably. It's just, again, the cost point of it compared to it's going to take some innovation and some thinking for someone to design something that can do that reliably. I think it'll come. It's something that public aquariums really want as well.
Yeah, I would quite like a little AI-powered submarine with a reef delete attached to it.
Yeah,
that can just prowl around the tank looking for Aptasia and eradicating it for me.
Yeah, flat worms. You
Yeah.
name anything that moves. It's just straight on it. Yeah.
Well, we got a frozen food feeder coming, so you never know. You never know what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen those things coming as well. That's going to be interesting.
It's be a game changer if you don't work. If you're not at home a lot Monday to Friday, that's going to be a game changer for you. But
yeah.
And I've just seen this from Paul. Linkia stars adapt to eating mastic as well, apparently. Which is interesting.
I think it might have been Paul's store. We actually filmed a harlequin shrimp. It having some. It might not have been AAC. I think it was though. We dropped something on a harlequin shrimp just to see if it would touch it, and it went for it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So on a day to day, then Matt, your life is speaking, selling products, talking about fixing problems out on the road. What does it look like?
It varies. I mean, this week just gone. I mean, I've been, fixing 3D printers. Steve will know this, for making prototypes, then making prototypes, then gluing my hands together, then gluing my hands to something else. Then, there's loads of new products coming through at the moment. We've got one that had to be finished this week and is pretty much finished, which is a eDNA sampler, which is something we're doing for the government, for the rivers. But it has a real interesting place in Aquaria, what's coming through there. And it's something that, again, is kind of on that horizon, I think, for like ICP testing was. I think eDNA is going to be a really interesting way of looking at your fish tank. It's not going to be something you do all the time. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's environmental DNA monitoring. So we filtrate a sample of water, and then we actually take that sample and we look at what is in the water course by the DNA we've collected from just the water. So if you imagine things like, feces and skin and hair and scales and anything that effectively is floating around in the water, we collect that, we analyze it, and from that we can tell exactly what's living in the water. And we can even
parasites.
Yeah, everything that has DNA. We can look at, or we can do full ecological surveys from it. But what's really interesting for a fish tank is, especially if you did get that kind of live rock in there, or a few corals that didn't get dipped properly or something, you're going to be able to tell what corals you've got in the tank, without touching them. What potential macrofauna you've got, if you've got bristle worms, bobbit worms, what else is going on there, things you haven't even seen yet. There's going to be, and it's going to be really insightful from that perspective. It's also going to be able to tell you all the stuff you probably don't want to know, like, is there any viruses? Because we can do our DNA as well, so we can do viral DNA with it as well. So you can look at almost everything going on in there, from a virus, bacteria, right up to Is
that likely? Because I know there's a few other people in the chat. Is that likely to come to the hobby as a paid service?
Yeah, no, I think it already is on that horizon, and I think, again, it's kind of like one of those things you probably wouldn't do all the time, but maybe out of curiosity, a couple of times a year. I think where it's going to be really important is, so there's part of the wider genomic sequencing stuff that all relies on behind the scenes, is that you can do something called MST, which is microbial source tracking. And from that, you can kind of tell where things have come from as well. So, where we've had potentially imports that haven't been right in the past, you're suddenly going to be able to start to tell exactly what species of coral it is and exactly where it's from. I mean, a good example of that is when we do stuff in the rivers, when we collect E. coli, which is a bacteria of interest. We've probably heard people talk about E. coli poisoning, and it's one of the ones they really worry about in the rivers because it's quite horrible to humans if you get it in you. We can look at that with the genomic stuff that our partner facilities do, and we can actually tell whether that E. coli's come from a cow or a sheep or a human or a fish or an otter or a seagull or a seal, or just by mapping all the DNA in it.
Interesting. I just noticed, I'll just share my screen, the one of the things when I was looking for items for the news today was that the aquabiomics have increased the number of tests that the frequency of testing that they're offering, because it's being so overwhelmingly, embraced by the hobbyists in the States.
Yeah.
That they're not able to test quickly enough. So they're doing them, 3 times? Yeah. 3 times a month now.
Yeah, no, I did read that, and that's really interesting. That's the kind of cool stuff that I think, and there's a large part of what's going on in the US hobby, I think, is to kind of prove the provenance of different corals as well. Was that Walt Disney or was it not? Yeah. And you can do that through the DNA stuff. It's just like a human, it's that genetic fingerprint that says exactly what is it.
Yeah.
And Matt, for everyone in the chat, are you at Aqua? Are you at Love to Reef? Are you showing off any of your products? Any of these shows that are coming up in the UK?
All of the above, hopefully, if I get an invite.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're really keen to do those shows, and we're really keen to do more stuff like this as well. And yeah, basically where we can help the hobby, we will.
And that will be with the Aquatic Now range of, or will that be ITC mainly?
No, so it will probably be the Aquatic Now family. So we include ITC, Seneye, and everything else we do as brands we distribute within that for the UK. And with that, obviously, we can get some bits running, show people stuff, bring some decent sized flow cannons and scare people.
Yeah, I'd be careful bringing a flow cannon. You might not get Rob away from it.
Yeah. I mean, if Rob likes the 150, he'll love the 1200.
Yeah, excellent. He'll have me printing another bracket then.
Yeah, you'll need a slightly more substantial one for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Ron's got a question, but I already know the answer.
Where is it? Which question?
Does Matt have a reef tank?
Yeah.
Yes.
Without much in it at the moment, there's something that does need to be. I think you might have heard the story about when I moved offices. I had a less.
Yeah, tell. Well, we know it, but tell the chat about your vermeted snail fun.
Yeah, so I think we've all seen the horror stories online of someone getting a zoa squirt in their eye or something, and you kind of laugh and you think, "Oh, I won't be that guy." And for a number of years, I wasn't that guy. And then it was actually during lockdown, I had to move offices. We kind of outgrew one place and we needed to get to the other and move. People weren't supposed to be at work and we weren't supposed to be, mixing. So I was pretty much a one-man army moving a fish tank, which had a recipe for disaster written all over it from the start. And I think it was about 10:30 on a Friday night. I'm still struggling to get, the rocks back in the tank and everything back in there. And I'd cut my hands quite badly, but some of the cuts weren't cuts. They actually were vermeted snails and punctured into me and kind of snapped off. And historically, even though they tell you not to, I'd always use hydrogen peroxide to clean wounds out. It's just so effective. I wouldn't recommend anyone do it, but I never had an issue when I used hydrogen peroxide. And the one night I didn't, I ended up getting my hand infected to the point that the next day I had a red line literally traveling up my arm. And I just happened to have a friend who's a consultant at one of the hospitals, and I lived a few houses down. I was worried enough to pop down to them because it was getting hot at this point, and went in for a coffee, and they wrote the time with a Sharpie on my arm, and an hour later it was 1.5 inches higher up this red line. So I ended up under their advice going straight to A&E, and I walked in lockdown with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt on a mobile phone and a face mask, expecting to go in and get a shot of antibiotics and come out. 3 days later, I was still in there on antibiotic drips, waiting for plastic surgery and the necrotic flesh to be cut from my hands. While that was going on, I'm sitting there in hospital. A kind nurse had lent me a phone charger so I could at least keep connected to the outside world. While I've sat there, I've just watched literally on the product I've invented, a Seneye, the ammonia level of the tank that I've just moved, just go through the roof and melt down. The whole thing had just gone into complete meltdown. And yeah, I ended up coming out of hospital, but of course I've got my hand bandaged up and held high and can't get it wet can't even have a shower for 2 weeks and get it wet, So yeah, the tank was just destroyed. All the hard work had gone. One fish survived and he's still alive today, and he's in the office, and he's a symbol of the tenacity of it. I hadn't expected anything to survive. The tank was just gone. And emptying the rock out months later, there was a goby in there, watchman goby, under one of the rocks, and he's still alive today. And it's just one of those incredible stories of like survival, not on my part, on his.
Yeah,
I would be here without the NHS, but yeah, he did well.
Yeah. So I did know. So the reason that was asked is because Ron has a Discord channel. There's a whole load of people in there. It's called Reefy AF. Great bunch of people. A lot of the people in the chat are part of that community as well. And we do like tank tours. So everyone will show their tank off. And he was just, looking for fresh victims, I think.
Okay. Does this mean I need to get my game on and get back into it properly?
Yeah. Get your reef tank up and running again. Join the Reefy AF Discord. Come and join some of the salty banters. And,
I
tank
think
tours.
Getting to that point now where the kids are getting a bit older. I kind of could put a few hours aside to start doing something a bit more.
I guess. What's your favourite fish and what is your favourite coral? To give us some idea.
I mean, that's I mean, I would have gone straight to copper band butterfly before, but now it's watchman going. And corals, I'm still really old fashioned. I still really like soft corals. I quite like the movement of them compared to hard corals. But if I could keep them alive, I'd love gorgonians everywhere.
Yeah, I must admit, I picked up a gorgonian at the Aqua Frag Swap last year. And I was more interested in interacting with people and taking part in the frag swap than what I was actually getting at the other end of it. And I was a bit like, I've never really had one before, but you can see it in the tank behind me.
Yeah.
And it's doing great. And it's I don't know whether I'd do so well with one of the NPS style ones that you have to feed, but ones like that I'm fine with.
But I love a good NPS tank. I mean, I mean, there isn't really I don't really have a go-to biotape. I think just some tanks are stunning, and I think Paul's had an NPS tank in the past. And
it is fantastic, his tank.
Sun coral, and some of that stuff just looks, when it's all together and it's done right, it just looks so good.
Yeah. And Paul has said as well, does hope you're coming to Love to Reef, and if Paul Longhurst hasn't reached out to you, let him know.
Cool.
And they can get that sorted out. And that just quickly brings me on to, it looks like they still have some tickets left. So if you haven't bought a ticket and you fancy going to Love to Reef in Harlow, yes, it's going to be a great event, I think. So go there, grab yourself one of the last few tickets.
Steve, did you see the question from Lee about extension leads?
Yes.
Like
here. Do you have stock of the extension leads for the A100 and A200 pumps?
Simple answer to that is normally yes. So I'd have to check in the stores, but we do normally have them.
Okay. It would. I would guess that he's struggling to source them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely give us a message tomorrow at the office. We can we've got a live inventory system. Someone can check when they're on the phone normally.
Yeah, excellent. There was another one as well from Woody's Reef saying it was nice that he and Paul Williams got to represent you and Seneye at MACNA 2018.
Yeah, I remember those guys going and doing that, and we've sent them some T-shirts and stuff to go. It's great because we'd love to bid every show, but we can't. We're too small a company, and our products are reasonably niche. We're not selling tens of thousands of products. So we sort of have to pick and choose where we go. MACNA was always a really good show, so we did try to get to that one, but there was a few years where we didn't.
Yeah. And your story about verminted snails, every time I put my hand in the reef tank, and because it happens reasonably frequently where you pick something up and one of them pokes your finger, immediately as soon as I'm finished now, I get all the lights on, I get a magnifying glass out and check. There's no, there's nothing in there, right? Just loads of Dettol on that.
Since that day, my missus now has got me putting on gloves to the elbow. So remember what happened to Matt? I'm like,
yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I mean, you do have to be careful. I think the problem is we can all be very blasé about it and cavalier, but actually, when you do end up in hospital on a drip for 3 days, being wheeled to an operating theatre, you do sort of question if you could have done it differently.
Yeah, I had the very similar thing. I didn't get the necrotic flesh. But I've actually had it twice now where I've been bitten by a spider and it's got infected. And same thing, I've had to draw a Sharpie line on my arm and the time, and then look at it like an hour later and go, oh, yeah, I need to go to A&E.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the problem is if that stuff gets to your heart, it stops it,
Maybe that's a tool you need to create. You need to create something that kills verminted snails for revenge.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Even a Reef Delete won't touch them because they're in a calcified, shell. So we'd have to go and up the. Well, we'd have to make a hell of a machine to break through the shell first. Yeah. But yeah, I think they are. The problem is they are an interesting thing in a reef tank to some extent, but they're also get to play proportions very quickly, and they just become a pest.
I mean, it's hard to get rid of them. Once they're in, it's hard to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got quite a population of bumblebee snails, and they do a reasonable job.
Yes, if you can get them. Yeah.
Not as fast as you're going in with your hands, but like you say, bumblebee snails. I wish there was a fish that would actively go and destroy them, but sadly there isn't.
Yeah. There probably is, but it's probably so ugly we don't want to put it in our tanks. That's the problem.
Or it also definitely eats coral.
Yeah, exactly. It only eats them when it's really, really hungry.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Well, I'm mindful of your time, Matt, and so I'm like two parts. I don't want to hold you any longer if you want to go, but I don't want you to feel like we're kicking.
Just so everyone else knows, I took a mate out for dinner last night, and he ended up having a pain in his chest, and we thought he was having a heart attack on the way home. So we ended up having an ambulance and ending up in A&E till 1 o'clock, and then they sent us home, but they wanted him back at 7 in the morning. So I'm running on about 5 hours sleep at the moment. So I said to the guys, I might be incoherent towards the end, so I'll probably check out the next 5-10 minutes to try and get some sleep.
Well, thanks for coming on anyway, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries, guys. Well, you can kick us off when you're ready.
Yeah. Well, we'll just carry on, and as soon as you're done, you can just kind of like wave and click leave.
Yeah. Well, looking at me, I look like I'm about to go to sleep anyway, so I'll say good night to you all and head off, I think. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, this is where the show goes to shit.
Yeah. Right, we've had all the intelligent stuff now. There's so many people that have come in. Good evening, everyone. I'm not gonna just kind of plow through all of those people this week. Sorry, we'll do extra next week. What have you been up to this week, Matt?
If you wanted to get a shout out, you're tough luck this week. That's clearly to you. That ain't to me.
I think it's plural. It's both of us.
Well, maybe pair of.
Yeah.
So
what have you been up to?
Not a considerable amount, but I'm now looking at my tank and I'm now thinking I've got to go back in there. Got some hair algae still annoying me, so we're going to have to do that. I seem to have lost an orange spot goby. I hope it's not the curse of the tank tour. I seem to just be weirdly losing fish. I'm hoping it's hibernating and it's somewhere and I'll find it in a couple of days, but I'm not sure. At the moment, I'm holding fire on any new arrivals. I'm having a month off, giving myself some time for Love to Reef. Going to try and deal with some of these other pests. I'm going to do an ICP this week. I'm going to grab a ICP from the local fish store. Just to make sure that everything is wet tickety-boo before we go to Love to Reef and she spends thousands of pounds.
Yes. Yeah. And what ICP are you going to use?
I think I'm going to go Elements. I was debating Fauna Marin because I know a few people have used that and they've rated that, or someone recommended Oceama, but I'm still sitting on the fence. The reason I'm thinking Elements because I'll go in my store and that's what he's got.
I like Elements.
And I have never had any issues with Elements. So I like the speed of it. So within a day or two, you've got your results. You know what you're doing. I don't particularly like waiting a week and going, well, that was my tank a week ago. I've done a water change since then, and I've done this, and I've done that. Whereas I'd like to do it, say tomorrow, or might do it start of the week next week. And by the time I've done a water change by that time, and I've done my ICP on the Monday, and by the Wednesday I've got my result, and I haven't touched the tank except feed it. But if I do it now and then I don't get it back till next week, I would have done a water change. I'd have dosed this, I would have dosed that, and I would be like, is that even right? But what I found interesting with Matt tonight is if they can get the sort of parasite testing on the market.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I'd be all over that. Just to see what's in the tank and what if I'm having trouble, like you're having with your tank a couple of weeks ago, what's in there? Yeah,
what is it? Because you do an ICP and everything comes back okay, but there's still something going on.
Yes.
So just understanding those, I think it's not going to be one that you do to the frequency of an ICP.
No.
But I see the potential for one or two a year, definitely, or especially around a problem.
Yeah, and like when Tom was saying on Sonic Banner the other day about his tank, that his ICP is bang on, but he knows there's something not right with his tank. That's the time to do something like that to see if there's something that you can't test for that's not right in your tank. And I feel like there's something not right in my tank, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is and where it's coming from.
Yeah.
If I am losing fish, is there something in the water that, because like say, if that orange spot has gone, that's 4 in the last 2 months when I wasn't losing anything. So I don't know. It's an odd one. I can't really put my finger on it. What about you?
So in answer of Ron's question, yes, my coffee cup, sponges and rubber glove has arrived. Did yours arrive as well, Matt?
So I want to know if that's something relating to what Lee was talking about on Soy Banner, or
yes.
No, it didn't. Do I want one? It doesn't have my address to send me that, but
no. What have I been up to? I've been 3D printing. Really interesting because this is like the biggest thing I've 3D printed, but also the highest density because I wanted to make sure it would sink. So normally I print stuff with 15% infill, and this was 75% infill. So it weighs a lot. Yes.
So is that a whole reel? Is that a whole reel to make that?
Yeah. So this is, well, it was just short of a reel. If I can get, there you go, get it
Right.
in.
Okay.
And
is
really
that prototype 2?
That's prototype 1. I started prototype 2.
Okay.
So all it was is when I printed this piece, instead of printing it with that on the bottom, I printed it with that on the bottom, like that.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of bits that weren't supported enough, and they've drooped, and it's made it a bit weak. So I looked through, and I started to reprint it like that, but also with slightly different design, with this bit here solid to keep that strength. And then halfway through the night, it just stopped.
Oh.
And we've been having some problems with power cuts, like micro power cuts. And it was just enough to stop the printer from printing. So I've got a UPS on it now. I'm going to start printing when the live stream finishes. So this piece is about 12 hours of printing. And then the other piece is about 10.
And you made them from scratch?
Yes. Yeah. So I designed them in CAD.
Right.
And you can conceptualize it in CAD and look at it, but it's not until you pick one up in your hands and you work out whether your infill levels are right and things. So, there was always going to be a couple of prototypes just to get it right. And then I've got a couple to print. I got one for Rob and one for Paul at AAC. So yeah, that's been a really, really interesting little thing to keep my mind busy.
Well, I guess it's putting your engineering background, but also your 3D printing hobby to use, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, my engineering background is electronic engineering.
Not CAD.
So I did have to do like technical drawing and stuff, but that was before you did it on a computer.
Oh, okay. Be that so.
That was when it was a board with with paper.
Yeah. Sell the rights to Harry, and then you can take some royalties on what Harry prints.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I that's what I was thinking. I was like, you know what, I'll get these ones done, and then if there is a big market for AFC 150 flow cannon brackets, I can't imagine there'll be a huge market there. But yeah, I'll send Harry the STL and he can print as many as he likes.
Are you buying anything this weekend? There's not many weekends you don't buy anything. As much as I say I don't want to buy anything, I haven't been to AAC in a while, and I'd like to go to AAC, but I'm trying to resist Till Love to Reef. But yeah, are you going anywhere that could tempt me?
So I'm mindful that I still haven't visited Little Fish Aquatics.
Right. Okay.
And I'd really quite like to get over there and maybe see if we could have a little bit of a mini meet there. I started looking at dates and then I just got swallowed up in loads of stuff here. So yeah, things are starting to chill out a little bit. I'm getting to the point now where I can start to get contractors in to do work on the house. It's at that point, so I can just kind of get them in and they do all the work. So that's great. So I'm starting to think, yeah, now we need to go visit a few places. Like I say, Little Fish Aquatics, I'd really like to go over there. But then also once these AFC mounts are done, I'll head over to Rob and Paul with those, and that would be a good excuse to go and shop at AAC as well.
Yeah, I think Dave's keen for an AAC meetup. Can you get them printed by the weekend?
There is a potential. It's really annoying because I drew it up and that diameter in CAD is 106. But in reality, it's 105. And the Canon is 106, so it's not going to sit in there.
Oh.
So that was like redesign 1 or redesign 2, because redesign 1 was where like this bit here hadn't printed right, and on the other piece there's a piece at the bottom here that again has done the same thing where it was no support. So yeah, a couple of those. Hopefully tonight I can print one, then tomorrow morning I can start another, and that will be then one complete unit printed, and then another night and another day should then be, as long as that first print is a successful one, it will be it will then be print the second one off, and yeah, head on over.
Any excuse for a reef shop, that's what I say, and I don't even have to argue about it. It's just
yeah, exactly.
You're
lucky.
Easiest job in the world. Do you want to go to see some fish and coral? Yeah. And normally she walks out spending more than I do. And she's full of comments today, so like.
Yeah, I've noticed she's been quite busy in the comments. We just need to get her behind the camera now and on the live stream.
Yeah, good luck with that one. You might be there a while. So in terms of your Stratton, you've had it a week?
Tuesday it arrived, didn't it? No, Tuesday last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tuesday last week.
Yeah, yes, I have had it a week. Yeah, it's getting to that point where I've had a little play around. I've tweaked the light levels. I've created my own light blend to try now, which is a little bit bluer than the normal SPS LPS Plus that they've got. Because I've had those Reefled 90s for so long, anything that doesn't have blue in it looks a little bit weird still at the moment. So I've just added a little bit of blue back in just to.
Any instant differences that you've noticed?
I wouldn't say instant, apart from the fact that I can see everything a little bit clearer. You know, particularly the fish, the colours seem a little bit more vivid. But it's yeah, Ron's just said, wait till you see the growth. I think that's one of the things that I've seen. The film on the glass seems to build up at that little bit quicker now. So I seem to be.
Because you said you had light in. You felt like you had a loss of par. Now you've probably got too much par, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, so I was running because I didn't want to shock the corals by leaping them right up. So I turned the light right down to 30%. So at its maximum, it's been 30%, and you know that's been running. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so that was running at 30%. I've just today increased that to the peak of 35, and I'll just slightly go up, and I stuck the PARwise Pro under it and just made sure that I wasn't blasting the hell out of it, and I'm just gradually notching that up a little bit.
What are you going to?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to go until I need to stop, which is not a very helpful comment, I get, but I'm trying to balance at the moment. I want enough light for a really good par at the SPS level, but without blasting the stuff on the sandbed too much.
Yeah.
So that's the little line I'm walking at the moment. So with it set to 35, I think the SPS in the tank, which is about there, that's getting like 350, 380, something like that.
That's currently.
Yeah, well, not currently, but at daylight. Yeah,
yeah.
35%.
Yeah.
And then the sandbed is then getting like 150.
And so I've just seen Harry's comment. So I have seen the copper band flying around. So that's still doing all right as well.
Yeah. Touch wood. I've got a desk, haven't I? I'll use that instead. Yeah, that seems to be going really well. And I really think that the big difference has been that it was smaller. The one I got before was quite big, and it was a similar size to the sail fin. And the sail fin saw that as a bit of a challenge, and would hardly leave it alone. This time, yeah, every now and then the sail fin kind of says, "Yeah, look at me, I'm bigger than you, ain't I, bruv?" And the copper band just kind of scarpers off. But there's no constant harassment now. So yeah, it seems more successful.
Yeah, I wish I had that luck with the yellow towels, to be fair, because that's one that just keeps driving me potty. But we'll get there. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. But a copper band's one that puts me off. But seeing more people now having success does make me think maybe there's time. I know, obviously, Harry's keen for one. I know other people like Rob's got them. You've got one. People seem to be doing well, which is helping me think, when is it time?
Yeah.
Ain't I, bruv?
That's listening to my daughter. Yeah, it looks like John Wright's been to see Mantis Reefs, Tom, to get some emerald crabs. And looks like he's got his eye on a Moorish idol now.
Here's another tank then, John. Get out them stairs. Get a 6-footer in there. Get rid of the 2 tanks and have one big one.
Sounds like a plan, doesn't it?
So, what about news on? Have you decided yet on your next tank?
I was like 98% there, D&D, and I've reached out to D&D to ask a few questions. It's not been fantastic response, and then the more and more I looked at it, and then I'm thinking, do I want one that's deeper, especially now with the Stratton, and thinking about punching through that water. I'm thinking even more now than before that I actually want one that's a bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so to get a bit deeper, Red Sea, that's a 750. Or a Cade 1800.
Yeah. I think
both of which are $5,000.
I think I'd go to Cade, or like Rob just said, custom.
Yeah, custom. Just had so many horror stories.
Yeah,
ordering a tank and getting it a year later, and then not getting any of the fittings. And
I think if you pick wisely who you go with, maybe ask some people that you know in the hobby that have had good experience with custom tanks.
Yeah,
I know Rob's not had a bad experience. Paul might know a few places to go, but it does open your doors, and you can have exactly what you want made to measure, doesn't it?
yes, yeah. So I didn't look at the name. Who said?
You can have your aluminium frame. You can have your clip-on doors. You can have all that from a standard.
Yeah,
with exactly the same dimensions you want for your room.
So Ryan said, "What about a Neptunian cube?"
Don't go big enough today.
That's what I was just thinking. I don't know if
I did say they've got an M180, but I don't know how big that is. I keep seeing it on Instagram, but I don't know how big that tank is. The other tanks I do like, and I know Lee's in the chat, is have you seen Aquaforest?
No, I haven't looked at theirs.
Really, really nice tanks. But I don't know anywhere that distributes them in the UK. I know Noodle Reefer's got one, and he's UK.
Okay.
He's Manchester. But there's some stuff. There's some tanks are really smart. Like I think there might even be acrylic sump, but yeah, they do look smart. Okay, Paul said that he uses Seabray. So again, like you say, it's one of them conversations. when I think for me, I'd go custom. If you're spending that money on the shelf, you could potentially go custom, and it's a lot more.
Unfortunately, Ron, my room isn't big enough for that extra big Red Sea tank that you were talking about.
That's fair.
The M Pro 180 is an interesting one.
Yeah, how big is that?
That's a 6 foot. Yeah, so it's 180 by 600 tall. So it's the deeper, higher, whatever one you want to call it, from bottom to top. It's more.
Yeah. Do like the weirs on those. The only thing that puts me off is, like I say, I've never seen one, and are they noisy? I'm guessing they're not because of the way they're designed. And I do like the flush back. Paul was saying that Aquaforest won't come to the UK, which is a shame because their tanks look lovely.
Yeah,
it's another one that looks really, really nice. I hate to say it, Red Sea puts me off. I think I'd be custom all over. Anything that I couldn't get off the shelf, anything bigger than this 4 foot, I'd potentially would have a 1500. I'd potentially have an 1800, but then anything over that would be custom for me.
Yeah.
And I'd design it exactly how I wanted it, and then you'd never buy, hopefully, again.
Yeah.
There you go. Ron's great advice.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to start looking into it, aren't I?
Yeah, and some of these companies you can go and visit, can't you? Go visit, have a look at what they've got, what they've made. I think Paul said he uses Seabray. I think, like you say, if you can get good communication from the company before you've even bought one, and you've got a couple of people have got saying that we've been using these for many years, it's worth having a conversation of what you can do. Have you got a dream size tank design in mind?
No, so it's going to go on this wall here,
right.
And it's 3 meters, little low. I think it's 3.1 if I remember correctly.
You might as well get the whole space. Use the whole space.
Yeah, well, I quite liked what Steve Fox did with the cabinets either side.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So that's the kind of route I was thinking, because then if I go MP40s or something, there's somewhere you can hide that big bulky out a bit.
Yeah. And you can go alley frame, clip on doors, custom sump. Yeah. Automatic water change. You'll be laughing, won't you?
Yeah.
Do it once. That's my dream for the garage. I just got to tidy the garage, but that's my dream for the garage.
The other idea was I've been looking on AliExpress. I think they've got some cheap ones.
11 foot, like in Chinesium glass.
Yes. News. So, hot off the press, there's new functionality in the PARwise Pro.
I've announced that one earlier.
On top of that, there is a shady, secret, subversive, smuggled Scully sauce out there by the looks of it. Everywhere I'm looking, people have got Scullies for sale.
Is this news or is this your conspiracy theory?
It's just me making stuff up now. Yeah. Well, not maybe making it up, but reading between the lines and making it. Okay. That's news, isn't it? You take some fact, sprinkle in some over-sensationalized commentary, and boom, headlines.
I really am tempted for a Scully, just for the certificate. I know that's sad.
So I've actually seen full Scullies, not the little ones.
Yeah.
In Ipswich or just outside Ipswich.
Yeah, I see that.
He's got 5 of them, I think.
Yeah, I see that.
But I'm seeing them everywhere. Everywhere I look now, people seem to have Scullies for sale. So I don't know where they're coming from.
I think if you've got a few and you've had a few, and you can make 400 quid because that's now the craze of Scullies are now back in town, and you've got someone selling one for like that big, and you've got a full grown one, and you can get 500 quid for it.
Yeah.
When we went to the Reef Experience meet, they had a master scully. I think that was like £600-700. It was lovely, but like you say, it's that movement around scullies at the moment. They're back in town. Everyone's got to have one.
Yeah.
So.
The next big piece of news is that next week there will be a live stream, but it will be a day earlier than normal. It will be on the Tuesday instead of the Wednesday.
Are you
that's
ready?
because
Are you
it's
ready
an
for this, Rob?
extra special live stream. We're having an April Fool's live stream. And there's going to be absolutely zero sensible reefing chat in this one. This is just going to be made up crap and anything for a laugh, basically. So yeah, I will launch that after this. I'll get it up on YouTube, share it around. I have had so much fun making up all the stories for this. It's been brilliant.
I saw the picture earlier and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's I did send it to Ron and Rob just so they weren't caught unawares when I shared this disturbing picture of us all.
I'm guessing Rob and Ron's replies were probably not YouTube appropriate.
Well, to be fair, they were 3 letters.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they weren't that bad. I think they're quite used to me sending them random stuff now.
Yeah. I don't actually think you've got the job. I think you just sit on AI and create stuff like this.
Yeah. Don't tell my boss whatever you do.
Scary.
And then the Reefers Network made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Mike Paletta is on Friday night.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah. And then there's just some random guys on Sunday.
Some random guys, Drippy back in town.
Yeah.
We might be on our way to AAC by then. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Oh, dear. So there was a question earlier, and I can't find who I think it was.
Dave.
I think it was Dave.
Right.
That asked about the PAR check and the readout on the Stratton. So the video that went live on my channel on Sunday, I did a bit on that. Interestingly, I've had quite a few comments on it about, because I said basically on the sand, it's absolutely spot on. But as you go closer to the light, it starts to get less and less accurate. And someone said to me, it's just your water clarity. I thought, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, but then it would get worse the deeper it got, not the other way around. Yeah. But I did think, I wonder how much the surface agitation on the water was affecting the higher readings, because it would fluctuate a lot more. So when I do the next video, which will be like a 3 months in or 1 month in or whatever it is, I'll do it again, but with all the flow off.
Have you got a lot of surface agitation?
Yeah, it's similar to yours, to be fair.
Right, okay.
Because I noticed that yours is quite active as well.
Yeah, no mill pond. It's nice and active, and I tried to get it going.
Yeah. So it's similar to that. I mean, you can see on the video, you can see the waterline bobbing, but because you're not looking up onto it, you can't really see the whole surface agitation. But it's reasonable. So I just wanted to redo the test, because also I had the UV turned off because I was dosing the Bacto blend for the Gonnies.
Yeah.
Having that, I've come to the end of that dosage now. So I've got the UV back on all the time now. So it'd just be interesting to to see after it's been like that for a little while, give it the maximum chance to having water clarity, and then turn the flow off and then get the palm meter out again. Just see how much difference it makes. It might make no difference, or it might be then absolutely spot on. You never know.
And have you found a solution for your only hate for the Stratton, for the wire? Have you found a solution of what to do with that?
No, but when I go to the next tank, it's going to have 2 Strattons on it.
Yep.
So I can make the wires point towards the middle, and then I can take them towards each other and then back to the back of the tank as one unit, and it will kind of look a bit more like it's supposed to be there, because I can always 3D print like a little gooseneck thing to clip it to, so it holds it precisely in the right place, kind of thing.
Do they come with a long lead?
Yes. Yeah, there's plenty of length in that.
Good. So should be fine then.
Yeah. I'm all thrown by doing it all back to front, you know.
Yeah, I feel like we've only just started, but actually we're soon to be wrapping up. So
yeah. What else have we got? Oh, we haven't asked Ron what tonight's alternative to hitting the like button is.
I think dare I say it, the other half did ask what the alternative was, and I think there was an unpolite response, or might have been not bothered not doing one today, or
okay.
Do let us know. Do let us know, because
so the alternative wasn't to put on the red light. I saw that was being suggested.
No, I did wonder where the red light was going. Dare I ask? And then I did get some insults thrown my way as well in the middle of the chat, but let's keep a professional face. And what you don't know is the missus is locked in a cupboard somewhere. So she's gagged and she's only got a phone. But no, yeah, definitely. I was thinking police.
And I've noticed we're missing someone tonight. Has anyone seen Melinda?
Oh yeah, yeah, but bless her.
I mean, it's mega early for her. I'm not saying that I expect her to be here. I just wondered whether you know, Ron had got hold of her.
Thank me. And the thing is, did he do a countdown? She likes a countdown to let her know, because she has to wake up. And like I say, she might be waiting for a spank. Who knows? But
yeah. And I'm sure in Salty Banter, I used an audio clip of Jim, and I think he's in the comments. And I pressed it, and he looked really confused. Just like, I didn't say that.
I actually heard it, and I actually thought it was hilarious, but he didn't clock, and I was a bit like, okay, I'll just leave it as that. But yeah.
And then I did actually reach out to John B, because I used one of those audio clips of him in Salty Banter, and he looked very, very unimpressed with it, and I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't look like he liked that.
Best not.
So I messaged him, and he said, oh, no, it was just I dropped one of my AirPods in the sump the other day, and I can't hear out of it very well.
Oh.
So I didn't quite hear what was going on.
Go.
So I was like, okay. Yeah, I feel a little bit better now, because I've got a T-shirt printed and everything.
Have you?
I haven't actually printed. I've done the design. I haven't printed it yet. I have the... I have the T-shirts and the iron-on stuff ready.
Do you you got your like sweatshop behind there? Like you're 3D printing, you're making T-shirts, you're making.
I have a problem.
Like,
I have a problem. I don't like just stop and put my feet up. Even if I start to watch something on telly, after about 10 minutes, I'm bored, and I have to just go and do something different. So yeah, I'll be creating fictitious products for a live stream, or T-shirts to insult people, or trawling through hours of footage just to get that snippet that I wrote on a piece of paper that someone said that made me chuckle.
At least we know. At least we know why you buy coral all the time.
Yeah,
it's a good excuse. I like it. I might use it. I'm bored. I need to go something. I'm going to buy coral.
Yeah.
Can't say I'm innocent. That's something we do as well. But yeah. And then you're going to Love to Reef and you're going to Aqua.
Yep. So I've booked the hotel for Love to Reef. I've booked my hotel for Aqua. So Aqua, yeah, I'll be there both days. I'm going to have to try and do something on the lead up to that because I have an office job, so I'm sat down all the time. So standing up for a whole weekend just killed me. So yeah, I'm going to try and get a bit better prepared for that. I think Aqua is going to be a really different experience this year, because when I went last year, so I started the YouTube channel in, I think it was the 10th of April. So it hadn't been running that long. Hardly anybody knew about it, and I hadn't met all the awesome people that I now have. You know, so I'd met, well, not met, but I knew Jay's Real Reef and Fish Palace. I knew Yorkshire Reefer, Reef Dork and Prestige, and that was about it. So, you know, there was probably loads of people I could have met and chatted with that I just didn't know who they were. So, yeah, I'm hoping it will be a really, really different experience this year.
And are you going to go to the Finest Reefers Network meet in July so you can meet Ron finally?
It's in my calendar.
Or are you going to go equestrian or?
No, so I've put it in the family calendar.
Ron will kill you.
Yes. And I noticed Ron was asking about getting his own ball sack towel, so I'll have to have one. I'll take one up for him.
Used?
Yes. Don't tell him.
Not washed. with some souvenirs on there as well for you, Ron.
Yeah, he'll go to use it and like, it smells like walnuts.
It's nice from Rob.
Yeah, to be fair, he's not wrong.
he knew what he was going to get.
Yeah. Mo's asking about the light. I'm surprised he can see it, you know. But
maybe he's heard.
Yeah, it could be. I do like it. That is probably, it's one of those ones where I think everyone's interested in it. I did the video for it and released that on Sunday, and it's been my highest performing video of all of them. You know, it's really taken off compared to my normally I get like 200 views, maybe 300. If I'm really lucky, 600. And this is at 3,200 at the moment. So
I think there's definitely some movement. I think because they've been waiting for them to come to the UK and then hit the UK. I think there's been definitely a rush to buy them. And obviously there's been some good marketing on them out. I think they're going to be a big competitor now. I think them and Radions are going to be the most popular choices with the other makes playing catch up. I think if you can afford it, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think if you've already got lights, it's quite hard to justify buying this and getting rid of the other ones. But I was at that point where I knew that I needed to buy lights for the next tank, and I was going to get XR30s. And when you start pricing it up, it's the same price roughly, but these ones use a lot less power, have no fans. It was quite a simple choice.
Yeah, and like you say, I think there'll still be people out there waiting to see someone have them a year, for reliability, for growth, and things like that. But they're obviously they're wanted in the UK for a reason, and I think you're not going to do one.
Yeah, so I waited until Ron had his for 3 months, because I know that's the life cycle of a Red Sea tank for Ron. So,
yeah,
you know, sorry, Ron.
I think he. Well, it's all right for him. He doesn't change his own tank, so we're all good.
Yeah. He probably does the light himself, though.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
All right,
It's not that heavy.
Drill 2 holes in there for me, mate.
Yeah. It's like, number 42, can you come and raise my light by 2 inches? Because he uses inches. I don't know if you know.
24, it's fish time. Please feed the fish. See, he knows.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that, I do need to. The missus did say that now she's seen a horticulture.
You're on a promise.
No, she's seen a horticulture channel.
I thought you were making your excuse to leave because.
No.
Okay.
She's got a horticulture. She saw a horticulture page. So if you're in the Discord, wait. If there's loads of pictures, that ain't me. That's her. Because now since my tank tour and my plant needs watering, and she's now found there's a channel for it in the Discord. She's going to be all over that. She's already said that she's going to plan her garden. And Ron, you're designing it, mate. So good luck with that one.
I thought she said she meant something different. She said in the comments about the little prick next to the tank.
That's me. Apparently.
She means the cactus.
Well, does she? I thought she meant me, but I just took it as I've been called worse. Yeah, I've been called worse.
That is a shortened URL because the actual website, and this, I promise you, this isn't me trying to prank you. I know that's going to be hard to believe. This is a shortened URL of the Deep Blue Marine Emporium free walling hammer giveaway competition that you can take to Facebook, and you have to leave a comment that's 3D-BME, which is part of their 3D printing stuff that they're doing. And they're going to pick someone, and you can win a walling hammer if you want one. So
can we just clear up Sean's comment? I'm not Matt from ITC Seneye, and I didn't replace Craig. That's not me. I am not that smart. Yeah, Craig's obviously moved on, and Matt is he was here, but he's gone because he had a terrible night last night. So we kept him for an hour and a half roughly, and we let him leave.
Yeah, we turned the stream on its head and did all the sensible stuff at the beginning, and then we're now just doing all the random reefing nonsense.
And next week is an absolute shit show with 5-6 clowns. So tune in.
Yeah. It's just preparing you for next week.
Just no trouts, and we'll be all good. Anything else goes.
Yes. Yeah, Matt did not catch his willy in his zip. Don't start saying that, Ron. And yeah, Rob, if you don't, because I can understand that people would not want to just take what I've put here and throw it into a browser and believe that I weren't going to send them somewhere random. If you go onto Facebook, find Deep Blue Marine Emporium, you should find their post about the 3D BME stuff, and you can enter that way. I won't be offended if you don't want to trust me.
What I seem to be doing in my spare time at the moment is watching old salty ban. Well, it's not salty ban. It's talking bollocks and stuff like that and some of the stuff. Like now, I'm trying to find all of these. When the Americans start rabbling on about these puns and stories, I'm trying on the search. Ron, you got to tell me. I've been looking for the last day. Which one is it where when Jim shows us around the store? What episode is it? Because I've checked number 1 and number 2. Tell me which one it is, because all I've heard is about prison sleeves or prison pockets from Jason, but not around stores. So I need to know what episode that is. Please tell me, because I want to hear the story now of Jim doing Jim, basically.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. Have you been watching any of John's YouTube?
I think John's very underrated. I think I'm interested when he does his tank tour because I think he comes across this laughy, jokey guy, but there's definitely a brain in there because like some of the stuff that's going on, like and just some of the tanks, his little tank videos, plays it down. But I think there's definitely a secret obsession in there.
There's a genius hiding in there.
Yeah, we'll go
underneath that very deep V-neck top. It's a genius.
Yeah, I like it.
And Harry as well. When's your next one out, Harry? I liked your last video. I want the next one now.
Yeah, are we still staying really like healing? Are we going back to more fish? What you got planned? There must be something in there.
Yeah.
I think it must take him. I don't know how long it takes him to do an average video, but I can imagine it takes him a while because I can imagine he's a bit of a perfectionist, likes to take 3 or 4 takes, likes to edit it to its. But the stuff that comes out is just quality.
I think the downside of that, and this is what I was talking to Harry about for his last video, is he'd edited it and watched it so many times, he was sick of looking at it and had lost faith in the video. And I think if you just keep watching the same thing over and over and keep editing it, you can get to that point where you're like, oh, you know what, I've just, maybe I'll redo that. But yeah, I think it's funny.
Even that long video, the Tranquil video, where it's just his tank with music in the background, such a different vibe. But yeah, love it.
Other news, really important. I saw yours and it reminded me.
Oh,
I found my Reef AF hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
It was in the Christmas wrapping paper bag.
Oh, that was close. You nearly didn't find that till next Christmas.
I don't know how it got in there. The only thing I could think of, because I think I left it out intentionally because I was going to wear it on moving day. And then as we were getting ready to pack everything up, my mum was just walking around the house picking stuff up and just putting them all in random boxes and shoving them in the van.
That's what it is.
And yeah, there was just like, I said, oh, where's the screwdriver and the spanners and everything? I'll put them in a box. Like, what box? I don't know. I was leaving them out because I need them to put the bed together when we get there. So, I had a plan for that.
Yeah. Helpful, not helpful sort of things, but
yeah,
it happens. It's joy of moving.
Yes, yeah. So I think we're pretty much there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Hopefully you all found the intelligent bit at the beginning by the other Matt all really good. Not saying you're not intelligent there, Matt, but you know,
far from
he had some interesting stuff. Yeah, hopefully we've entertained you all, and I will see you next week, one day earlier on the Tuesday. I'll try and put plenty of notice out there. I might be wearing fancy dress. I don't know. We'll see. I might do something. But yeah, that's just gonna be a stupid stream. Yeah, just fun. Hopefully it'll be fun anyway. I'll enjoy it. That's the main thing.
I'll just turn up. I'll turn up. What's the worst that can happen, eh?
Yeah. Have you done your homework for it, Matt?
Nope, I'm going in blind, mate. I'm literally going to go in blind.
But you had to bring 5 products to the table.
Oh, I can find them.
Okay.
I'm sure I can do it.
Oh dear.
Is that the dress code, Rob? We can do that. I can put mankini on with maybe a wig on. Ron can wear his little red. I can have my blow tie on, and Rob can have his red
what on?
My bow tie.
Oh, sorry. I thought you put an L in it.
Oh. I can have my Love Honey sponsorship on.
Yeah.
But I don't trust Ron, though, because Ron will just take it to another level, I think. Harry will turn up innocent. Just here for an orange game.
I picture Harry turning up the most outrageously outfitted of the lot of us.
There's a dark side there.
Yeah, I think he's going to turn up as a jelly baby with a ball gag in.
We'll turn him bad. If he's in that Discord long enough.
I thought he said that as well, Rob. Anyway,
on that note,
thank you very much for watching, everyone. See you next week.
See you later.